What is going on, everyone? It's Mark Brill Jr., the Father's Rights Attorney, and you are watching another episode of the Father's Rights Playbook. On today's episode, we have attorney here at Real Father's Rights, Priyanka Bucharia.
Yes.
And returning guest. It's been a while, but you're back. And today we're going to talk about the 3 biggest mistakes men make when a temporary restraining order gets granted against them. Unfortunately, a problem that we deal with quite frequently. So hopefully this impacts at least a few people that listen to it. So we were talking beforehand, and we wanted to come up with the 3 biggest mistakes that get made when a TRO gets granted. And the first one we came up with was communicating with the opposing party. So your girlfriend, your wife, whoever it may be, files the restraining order against you. The temporary restraining order gets granted, and then one of 2 things happens. Number 1 is you immediately start reaching out to her after you get served with the restraining order that says you can't communicate with her, or she starts texting and calling you, and you reciprocate. So walk us through, Priyanka. When guy gets served with a restraining order, a lot of times the allegations are very flimsy, and it can be really frustrating. And it has the box checked off that you cannot communicate with the party that has the restraining order. What do we want to see our guys do in those situations when it comes to communication with the other party?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, more often than not, what happens is there's a restraining order against client, and then the other party herself is contacting our client saying that, hey, I miss you, I didn't want to do it, but unfortunately I had to do it. And then client responds thinking in good faith that, okay, the other party herself is reaching out, but that counts as a violation of the restraining order because the restraining order is against the client.
Which is a big deal because a violation of the temporary restraining order, regardless of what was said in the request, can be enough to get the restraining order permanently granted against you.
That is correct. And it can also be a huge evidence that if you cannot even follow a temporary one, then how are you going to continue to be not terrorizing the opposing party, apparently?
Yeah, definitely. And it's one of those things where I think a lot of times the guys are so surprised when they get served with the restraining order. You don't think straight. You don't necessarily have your head screwed on, and 48, 72, 96 hours later, you realize your mistake, or you call your attorney, and your attorney's like, yeah, we're going to not do that anymore. But it's one of those things that I think that's probably the most common violation of the temporary restraining order, and probably one of the leading causes of permanent restraining orders getting granted.
That's true. And you know, this happens more often, and the only thing that clients can do is do not respond. It's okay. I mean, the other party says, I miss you. Well, there is a restraining order.
Yeah.
She filed it.
That they filed. Yeah. Call your attorney, not your ex or your soon-to-be ex. I don't know what we want to call them
Sure.
at that point. All right. So the second biggest mistake we see men make in these temporary restraining order situations is having someone else communicate or go check in and see what they're doing. And most of the time in these restraining orders, they explicitly say you can't even have someone communicate on your behalf or go to, I guess, surveil the other party on your behalf.
Yes, and then it has happened where people have been like, well, I need to get my clothes, I need to get my truck. Well, no, do not ask anybody else to go and get any of your stuff. Call your attorney. Your attorney can arrange a meeting with a sheriff present where you can get your stuff, your belongings, and move on.
Yeah. Because it can be a violation of the temporary restraining order for you to have someone else reach out to them to try to fix things.
Yes.
So that's something that we see far too common. Usually it's in that first day or two, like having your sister or your mom or a cousin or a mutual friend reach out on their behalf. It's a more minor violation. A lot of times that type of violation, unless it's egregious, won't lead to like an automatic granting of the permanent restraining order. But as you said earlier, it doesn't look good when we go into hearing that you went out and immediately violated the order.
That is correct.
Okay. And then the third thing we came up with was, you kind of alluded to it, but it's being where you're not supposed to be. Many times these restraining orders have kick-out orders in them where you're not able to go back to your house. So you walk to your front door because the sheriff's there and they hand you paperwork and say you have to get out, or even worse, you're at work, you're somewhere out and about, and the sheriff serves you and you're not able to go back to your house. So we see guys, they'll go back for their car, they'll go back for clothes, they'll go back for items. This is usually where we kind of see what I would call the egregious violations, where they're very angry, they feel entitled, they have a right to do it, but you just can't do it. So what should a guy do? They're at work, they get served with a restraining order. Super embarrassing. You're in front of all your colleagues, everything else, you get served with a restraining order, and you're not allowed to go back to your house. What's the move?
Well, emotions are high at that time. You're embarrassed, but you need to calm down and think that one violation can lead to a result that you can be separated from your child. So tell the sheriff that, hey, okay, I still need to get these belongings from the house. I still need to get my work documents from the house. The sheriff will come with you. You go to the house. The sheriff will give you 5 to 10 minutes to gather everything that you can, and then you leave. After that, contact your attorney.
Yeah. And a lot of times what the sheriffs will do, and you have to be okay with this, is if you say, hey, I need to grab this item, I need to do this, understand if there's a kick-out order, you're only able to take what opposing party, what your wife, your girlfriend, whoever it is, allows you to. So they can say no about anything. Outside of it being like, hey, I'm grabbing my birth certificate, like they can say no. And you have to be okay with this. And you're right. It's one of those things where a lot of times you give it a day or two and your attorney can kind of negotiate that, like, I need these items, I need to do this, but don't take it into your own hands.
And don't argue with her that if she says, no, you cannot take it, don't take it. Leave for the moment.
Yeah.
Give it a day or so. Let your attorney negotiate something for you. Then take those stuff. Yeah. And of course, do not take any community property in case of divorce.
Yeah, well, I think the one that's probably the most challenging is you'll see they'll have 2 cars, and she'll get both cars under the restraining order. And I get it. It doesn't make any sense. And like you're like, what am I supposed to do? I got to call an Uber to go to my mom's house because she has possession of both cars. But it's one of those things where, unfortunately, the restraining order process does many times get weaponized because of as you mentioned, Priyanka, the impacts on custody. But a lot of times you're going to have to give it some time to get things sorted out. And it can be terribly inconvenient. So maybe you're sleeping on a couch, or you don't really have anywhere to go, or you just got your car and you don't really got anywhere to go. We get it. It can be challenging. But those first 72 hours when the men make these emotional mistakes, you could very easily end up with a 3 or 5 year restraining order that in a few years turns into a lifetime restraining order because you couldn't control yourself in this first 72 hours.
That is correct. Like the first, or at least you go to court for your permanent restraining order trial, just be careful. Do not contact your ex. Let your attorney do the talking. If you need anything urgent, call the police. The police will help you.
Yeah. Definitely. So, Priyanka, thank you so much to our listeners and viewers. Hope you found this informational, educational, maybe a little bit entertaining, and we will see you all next week on another episode of the Father's Rights Playbook.